If you come back more tired than you left traveling for the holidays, listen up. So this is Pillow Talks. My name is Todd Anderson. I've helped thousands of people sleep better, athletes, everyday professionals. My goal is to help you take over the world 8 hours a night at a time. So when it comes to travel, there's a lot of different elements, a lot of moving parts, and it's important to understand what's actually impacting you the most. So the first reason of why you don't feel great after you travel is your bed setup, your environment, the actual sleeping situation. There's a few components of this. The first is going to be light, right? So you want light massively impacts your sleep, it affects your routine, it affects your melatonin production. And so you have to be aware of the situation you're walking into. So checking out, are you staying in a hotel? Are you staying at someone else's house, your parents' house, who knows? What's the lighting situation? I do love the sleep math for the situation because you can replicate your lighting situation at home, take it wherever you are, but you have to make sure you're aware of the light, making sure you're winding down, making sure you're controlling the light leading up to the nighttime. The second thing, and this is probably the easiest thing, is temperature. You want to make sure you have a cool, dark room. And so when you're in a new environment, sometimes the last thing you think about is the thermostat, how warm it's going to get. You're not sure the temperature you're walking into. So if you're in a hotel, the first thing I would do when I walk in the hotel is flip it to 65 degrees. Make sure when you're ready to go to bed later that night, it's at the right temperature. So you're not messing with it in the middle of the night because it's hotter than you're used to being. And the third piece is going to be routine. So if you set yourself up with a routine when you're home, then you're able to as closely as you can replicate that when you're traveling. That's going to trigger your body to go to bed at the same time, trigger that circadian rhythm. So what does routine look like? An underrated piece of that is meal timing. So trying to have dinner the same time you do at home as when you're traveling. The other piece of that is water consumption. Make sure you're tapering down your water consumption 2 hours before bedtime, so you're not having to get up and go pee a million times. And then, whatever it is that relaxes you at home. Let's say you have a nighttime tea, you read a book, you have a certain wind down activity that you like. I personally do sauna every single night. I'm probably not gonna be able to do that when I'm on the road, but what do I do? I do a hot shower. Maybe I'm at a hotel, they have a hot tub or a bath. There's ways to make things work. So just be as regular as you can on the road as you are at home. The second reason you don't feel great is probably consumption, right? When it's, especially during the holidays, you're eating stuff, you're drinking stuff that's out of the norm. They did a study last year. They just had a correlation between quality of foods that you're eating, meaning like high quality, meaning unprocessed, vegetables, well balanced, good cuts of meat. But when you have low quality food, so high saturated fats, sodium, all the bad things, fried foods, it actually impacts the quality of your sleep when we're looking at deep sleep cycles, REM cycles. So now that we know for sure the food quality, not just quantity, the food quality and timing have an impact on what type of sleep you get. When you're eating all that stuff, it's going to play a role. It's going to make you not sleep with high quality. So how do you kind of combat that? Is I think the best way to do that is make sure you're hydrated, right? So water is a simple fix. It's not going to impact any of the holiday festivities. The other thing is just making sure you're getting in fiber. So even if you're going to have all the bad stuff, making sure you're getting, some type of vegetables and greens and fiber, which will keep you more regular. It's very useful for your GI system. And then also a well-rounded macro meal. The combination of those two things keeps your blood sugar stable. So like if you just had, let's say like pie or some like very high sugar thing and nothing else, your insulin or your glucose would spike, and that's going to impact your sleep. It's going to impact it less if you combine that with like fats, carbs, and protein. So if there's good cuts of meat or any meat, any protein, make sure you get a combination of proteins, carbs, and fats, and that's gonna affect your blood sugar less than it would if you just had like sweet desserts or cookies. So if you're gonna have some cookies, get some protein, and don't just have it isolated. On the other side of that is going to be alcohol. Now, I think I'm not somebody who says you shouldn't have alcohol. I think that there's a time and a place for everything in moderation. I don't believe anything's innately good or bad. It's all about having intentionality. So if you're going to do it, I feel like maybe this is the time and to enjoy yourself, but just understand what you're doing. So alcohol impacts your REM sleep more specifically. Like that's really what it takes on. That's really what decreases. So your REM sleep is a sleep that helps you mentally reset, emotional regulation, some memory consolidation. It basically is a mental reset. So knowing that, if you're having alcohol over and over again, you're not going to feel great after a couple of days, especially from a mental perspective, like a clarity of focus perspective, and that's not awesome. So the things you can do to combat that, again, Hydrate. It's always a good thing. It's always going to help your body function optimally, especially when you're metabolizing something like alcohol. And then the other thing is just be intentional with how much you're having and when you're having it. If you're having it earlier in the day, it's going to have less of an impact. To have almost no impact, if you have a glass of wine, if you give yourself 4 hours, that's usually a long enough time where it minimally affects your sleep. And so just think about that. Like, let's say you're going to have 3 glasses of wine on Christmas, for example. That's fine. But 3 glasses of wine, let's say if you had it at 2, 4, and 6, is substantially different than if you had it at 6, 8, and 10, right? So I think thinking about when you're having it, and I know it sounds a little crazy, moving it earlier in the day as opposed to at night is going to have less of an impact on your sleep. So it's going to have less carryover day to day. So just think about that. Be intentional with it. The hard part is, now this is where people get caught up, is you're like, oh, I mean, Todd said to start at 2. Well, that doesn't mean like go 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. That can be the slippery slope. So think about an amount that you want to have, stick to the plan, and be intentional with the timing. But at the end of the day, give yourself a break. It's, you have to enjoy yourself. And I would argue that the only thing more important than sleep and the things we're talking about for health is having community and family. And that's not just from an opinion perspective. That's from actual longevity studies. So don't lose sight of the end goal. You want to be healthy, but why do you want to be healthy? And that's for your family and the people you love to be around. And then the third piece, I would say, of all the things, right? So we talked about environment. We talked about what you're eating and drinking. And the last thing is just stress, right? I mean, stress is plays tricks on our body. Stress kind of is the start of all disease in some way, some shape or way. So I think understanding what you're walking into, right? Having clarity around any conversations that might come up. Maybe you talk through it with your partner about how you're going to handle these things, but just understand like you have control over how you react to certain things. And know that you're walking into an environment that might be stressful. So just know that going in, set the expectations. The only thing I can say, because I'm not a psychologist, but the one thing I'll say from a physiological perspective, when it comes to sleep, that will directly combat stress, is your breath. When you're breathing through your nose, when you have a long, slow exhales, longer than your inhales, your nervous system will calm down. And our nervous system responds almost identically to mental stress, physical stress, all the stressors. Our body tends to react the same. So if you can control your breath, especially before bed, as stressful of crazy, political conversation you had, you will start to calm down. You will feel better. Your physical symptoms from anxiety will lessen. So be intentional with your breath and know that it's going to be okay. Life goes on and you're going to feel better, hopefully in the morning because you get a good night's sleep. So if you attack those 3 things, I think you'll be in a good place. But at the end of the day, hopefully you're going back to see people you love, and sometimes being a little more tired after that is worth it. But I think you can limit the impact if you have your eyes on the prize. Think about these and set some plans in place. I think a lot of times not having a plan is actually the biggest reason. So if you know going into it, you feel a lot better. And my name is Todd Anderson. This is Pillow Talks. I'll be doing these series every single week, talking about different sleep problems, knocking them out, chipping away as we go. There's probably a problem you're dealing with or someone you know is dealing with. So please like and subscribe, and I will talk to you soon.